The city was alive with noise. Cars honked, people chatted, and the hum of life filled the air. In the middle of it all, a woman walked quietly, unnoticed. She was ordinary in every way, or so it seemed. Her name didn't matter. What mattered was what she was about to discover. She was crossing the street when it happened. A loud crash echoed through the air. A truck had lost control, its tires screeching as it barreled toward a group of children playing on the sidewalk. Time seemed to slow. The woman's heart raced. She didn't think. She just moved. In a flash, she was there, standing between the truck and the children. Her arms stretched out, her body braced for impact. The truck was inches away when something incredible happened. A force, like an invisible shield, erupted from her. The truck stopped dead in its tracks, as if hitting an unbreakable wall. The woman stood there, trembling, her hands glowing faintly. The crowd gasped. The children stared at her, wide-eyed. The woman looked at her hands, her breath shaky. What just happened?" she whispered. She had no idea where this power came from or why it had chosen her. But one thing was clear, she was no longer ordinary. As the crowd gathered around her, asking questions and taking pictures, she felt a chill run down her spine. Someone was watching her. She turned her head, scanning the area. In the shadows of a nearby alley, a figure stood silently. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their expression was unreadable. The figure whispered something, so low that no one else could hear. "They don't realize what she truly is." The woman's heart pounded. She wanted to run, to hide, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. The figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving her with more questions than answers. Who were they? What did they mean? And most importantly, what was she? Far above Earth, hidden in the vastness of space, a sleek alien ship orbited silently. Inside, a group of beings watched the planet below. They were tall, with smooth, silver skin and eyes that glowed like stars. To humans, they would have looked strange, even terrifying. But among themselves, they were calm and calculating. On a large screen, they replayed the scene of the woman stopping the truck. Her glowing hands, the invisible shield, the stunned crowd, it was all there. The aliens watched in silence, their expressions unreadable. "This changes everything," one of them said. His voice was deep and cold, like the void of space. He was the leader, known as the Overseer. "We believed humans were weak. Fragile. But this is unexpected." Another alien, smaller and with a softer glow in their eyes, stepped forward. This was the observer, the one who had been watching the woman from the shadows. "She is different," the observer said. "Her power is unlike anything we've seen. But she doesn't understand it. She's afraid." The Overseer narrowed his glowing eyes. "Fear is a weakness. If she cannot control her power, she is a threat. To us and to herself." The observer hesitated. "Perhaps. But there is something else. Something human about her. She risked her life to save those children. She didn't think. She just acted. That is not weakness. That is strength." The Overseer turned to the observer, his gaze piercing. "Sentimentality will cloud your judgment. We cannot afford to underestimate her, or any of them. If humans possess such power, they could become a threat to our mission." The observer looked back at the screen, watching the woman as she walked away from the crowd, her head down, her hands still trembling. "What if we're wrong about them?" the observer asked quietly. "What if they're not the primitive species we thought they were? What if they're more?" The Overseer didn't answer right away. He stared at the screen, his mind racing. Finally, he said, "We will send a scout to Earth. They will observe her closely. If she proves to be a threat, we will eliminate her. If not, we will study her. Learn from her. But make no mistake, this changes nothing. Earth is still ours for the taking. The observer nodded, but there was a flicker of doubt in their eyes. They had spent years watching humans, studying their behavior, their emotions, their flaws. And yet, there was something about this woman that made them question everything they had been taught. The woman sat alone in her small apartment, staring at her hands. They looked normal now, but she could still feel the strange energy coursing through her. It was like a fire, burning just beneath her skin, waiting to be unleashed. She didn't understand it. She didn't know where it came from. And that scared her more than anything. She thought about the figure in the shadows, the one who had been watching her. Who were they? What did they want? She had so many questions, but no answers. All she knew was that her life had changed forever, and there was no going back. As she sat there, lost in thought, a faint sound caught her attention. It was a soft hum, like the buzz of a bee, but it was coming from outside her window. She stood up and walked over, pulling back the curtain. At first, she saw nothing. Just the empty street below, lit by the glow of streetlights. But then she noticed something strange. A shadow, darker than the others, moving slowly across the pavement. It didn't look like a person or an animal. It was different. Her heart began to race. She stepped away from the window, her mind racing. Was it them? The ones who had been watching her? Before she could decide what to do, the hum grew louder. It was coming from inside her apartment now. She turned around, her eyes wide, and saw it, a small, glowing orb floating in the air. It was about the size of a baseball, and it pulsed with a soft, blue light. The woman froze. What are you?" she whispered. The orb didn't answer. Instead, it floated closer, circling her slowly. She could feel its energy, warm and electric, brushing against her skin. It was strange, but not threatening. In fact, it felt almost familiar. As the orb circled her, a voice filled the room. It was soft and melodic, but it didn't come from the orb itself. It was in her mind. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "We mean you no harm." The woman's breath caught in her throat. "Who are you? What do you want?" The voice paused, as if choosing its words carefully. "We are observers. We have been watching you. And we have questions." The woman's heart pounded. "Questions? About what?" "About you," the voice replied. "About what you are. And what you could become." The woman didn't know what to say. She felt a mix of fear and curiosity, but mostly, she felt overwhelmed. "I don't understand," she said. "I'm just me. I'm nobody special." The orb stopped circling and hovered in front of her. Its light grew brighter, almost blinding. "You are wrong," the voice said. "You are more than you know. And soon, you will see." Before she could respond, the orb vanished, leaving her alone in the dark. The hum faded, and the room was silent once more. The woman stood there, her mind racing. What had just happened? And what did it mean? She didn't know. But one thing was certain, her life would never be the same. The woman woke up the next morning, her mind still racing from the events of the previous night. The glowing orb, the voice in her head, it all felt like a dream. But the lingering energy in her hands reminded her it was real. She sat up in bed, staring at her palms. They looked normal, but she could still feel the faint hum of power beneath her skin. She sighed and got up, trying to push the thoughts away. She had a job to do, a life to live. She couldn't afford to dwell on the impossible. But as she went about her morning routine, brushing her teeth, making coffee, getting dressed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound louder. She felt like a stranger in her own life. At work, she tried to focus. She was a librarian, a quiet job that suited her well. She liked the order of the books, the silence of the shelves. It was a place where she could disappear, where no one asked too many questions. But today, even the library felt different. The usual calm was replaced by a strange tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. She spent the day helping patrons, organizing books, and avoiding eye contact. Every time someone approached her, she felt a jolt of fear. What if they noticed something different about her? What if her powers slipped out, like they had with the truck? She clenched her fists, trying to keep the energy under control. By the end of the day, she was exhausted. She walked home slowly, her head down, her thoughts a tangled mess. She wanted to talk to someone, to share the burden of her secret. But who could she tell? Who would believe her? As she turned the corner to her street, she saw a familiar figure waiting by her apartment building. It was her neighbor, an elderly man who often sat on the porch, watching the world go by. He smiled as she approached. "Evening," he said. "You look tired. Long day?" She forced a smile. "Yeah. Just, a lot on my mind." He nodded, his eyes kind. "Life's like that sometimes. But you're strong. You'll get through it." His words struck a chord. She wanted to believe him, but how could she? She didn't feel strong. She felt lost, like a ship adrift in a storm. She thanked him and went inside, locking the door behind her. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. She sat down on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. Her mind wandered back to the orb, the voice. What did they want from her? And why had they chosen her? She didn't have answers, but she knew one thing: she couldn't keep living like this. She had to find out more, to understand what was happening to her. But how? Where could she even start? As she sat there, lost in thought, her phone buzzed. She picked it up and saw a notification from the news. The headline made her heart stop: "Mysterious hero saves children from truck accident. Who is she?" She clicked on the article, her hands trembling. There was a blurry photo of her, standing in front of the truck, her hands glowing faintly. The article speculated about her identity, calling her a real-life superhero. People in the comments were divided: some called her a hero, others a freak. She put the phone down, her breath shaky. This was bad. If people started looking for her, asking questions, she wouldn't be able to hide for long. She had to be careful, to stay out of the spotlight. But how could she, when her powers seemed to have a mind of their own? That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind was a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and doubt. She thought about the children she had saved, the look of awe on their faces. For a moment, she had felt like a hero. But now, all she felt was fear. Meanwhile, the observer watched her from the shadows. They had been following her all day, studying her every move. They saw her fear, her struggle, her loneliness. It was fascinating, and yet, it made them uneasy. The observer had spent years studying humans, but this woman was different. She wasn't just a subject to be observed. She was something more. The observer couldn't explain it, but they felt a connection to her, a strange pull that they couldn't ignore. As they watched her through the window of her apartment, they wondered what she was thinking. Did she know how powerful she was? Did she understand the danger she was in? The observer wanted to help her, to guide her, but they knew it wasn't their place. Their mission was to observe, not to interfere. But as they stood there, watching her toss and turn in her sleep, they felt a flicker of doubt. Was their mission truly just? Were they doing the right thing by standing back and watching as she struggled alone? The observer shook their head, trying to push the thoughts away. They couldn't afford to question their orders. The overseer had made it clear, humans were not to be trusted. And yet, as they looked at the woman, they couldn't help but wonder if the overseer was wrong. The next morning, the woman woke up feeling more restless than ever. The news article about her had gone viral, and she couldn't stop thinking about it. She knew it was only a matter of time before someone figured out who she was. She had to do something, but she didn't know what. She decided to take a walk to clear her head. The streets were quiet, the air crisp and cool. She walked aimlessly, her hands shoved deep into her pockets, her mind racing. She didn't notice the figure following her at first. But as she turned a corner, she felt it, a presence, watching her. She stopped and looked around. The street was empty, but the feeling didn't go away. Her heart began to race. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no answer. Just the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe the stress was getting to her. But then she saw it, a shadow, moving in the corner of her eye. She turned quickly, her hands instinctively glowing faintly. "Show yourself," she demanded. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the figure stepped out of the shadows. It was the same being she had seen in her apartment, the alien scout. Up close, they looked even more strange. Their skin was smooth and silver, their eyes glowing softly. They wore a simple, dark robe that seemed to blend into the shadows. The woman took a step back, her heart pounding. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The alien tilted their head, studying her. "We mean you no harm," they said, their voice calm and melodic. "We are here to observe. To learn." The woman frowned. "Observe? Learn? What are you talking about?" The alien took a step closer, their movements slow and deliberate. "You are different," they said. "You possess a power that we do not understand. We wish to know more about it." "About you." The woman's hands glowed brighter, the energy pulsing through her. "Stay back," she warned. "I don't know what you are, but I'm not afraid to defend myself." The alien stopped, holding up their hands in a gesture of peace. "We do not wish to fight," they said. "We only wish to talk." The woman hesitated. She wanted to run, to get as far away from this creature as possible. But something about their calm demeanor made her pause. They didn't seem hostile. In fact, they seemed curious. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice softer now. The alien lowered their hands. "We are observers," they said. "We have been watching your world for a long time. We believed humans to be weak, primitive. But you have proven us wrong." The woman's frown deepened. "What do you mean?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, as if they were processing her question. "You saved those children," they said. "You risked your life for them, without hesitation. That is not the behavior of a weak species. It is the behavior of a strong one." The woman didn't know what to say. She had never thought of herself as strong. In fact, she had always felt the opposite. But hearing the alien say it made her wonder. Maybe she was stronger than she realized. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. The alien tilted their head again, their expression unreadable. "Because we believe you are important," they said. "You have the potential to change things. To change us." The woman shook her head, confused. "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" The alien was silent for a moment, as if choosing their words carefully. "We want to understand," they said finally. "We want to know what makes you different. And we want to help you." The woman's eyes widened. "Help me? How?" The alien took another step closer, their voice soft but firm. You are not alone, they said. There are others like you. Others who have been chosen. But they are in danger. And so are you. The woman's heart skipped a beat. Danger? From who? The alien's expression darkened. From those who do not understand, they said. From those who fear what they cannot control. The woman felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't know what to believe, but the alien's words filled her with a sense of dread. What are you saying? She asked. What's going to happen? The alien looked at her, their glowing eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place. A storm is coming, they said. And you are at the center of it. Before she could respond, the alien turned and began to walk away. The woman reached out, her hand glowing faintly. Wait, she called. You can't just leave. I need answers. The alien paused, glancing back at her. You will find them, they said. But not from me. Be careful. Trust no one. And with that, they disappeared into the shadows, leaving the woman alone once more. The woman's reflection. The woman stood there for a long time, staring at the spot where the alien had been. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, fear, confusion, curiosity. She didn't know what to think, what to believe. But one thing was clear, her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. She walked home slowly, her thoughts racing. The alien's words echoed in her mind. A storm is coming. What did that mean? And who were the others like her? Were they out there somewhere, just as scared and confused as she was? When she got home, she locked the door behind her and sat down on the couch, staring at her hands. They glowed faintly, the energy pulsing through her like a heartbeat. She didn't know what to do, but she knew one thing, she couldn't keep running. She had to face whatever was coming, no matter how scared she was. The alien observer's dilemma. Meanwhile, the observer watched her from a distance, their glowing eyes filled with conflict. They had broken protocol by speaking to her, by revealing too much. The overseer would not be pleased. But the observer couldn't help it. There was something about this woman, something that made them question everything they had been taught. As they watched her through the window of her apartment, they wondered if they had made a mistake. Had they put her in more danger by warning her? Or had they given her the tools she needed to survive? The observer didn't know. But one thing was certain, the storm was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would be the same. The woman couldn't sleep that night. The alien's words haunted her. A storm is coming. What did that mean? And who were the others like her? She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the ground to crumble beneath her. The next morning, she decided to take action. She couldn't just sit around, waiting for something to happen. She had to find answers. But where could she even start? She didn't know anything about aliens or superpowers or storms. All she had were questions, and a growing sense of dread. As she sat at her kitchen table, sipping coffee and staring at her hands, she heard a faint hum. It was the same sound she had heard before, the one that had signaled the alien's presence. Her heart raced as she looked around the room. "Are you here?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no answer, but the hum grew louder. She stood up, her hands glowing faintly, ready to defend herself. Then, suddenly, the alien appeared in front of her, their silver skin shimmering in the morning light. The woman took a step back, her breath shaky. "What do you want?" she asked. The alien tilted their head, their glowing eyes studying her. "You have questions," they said. "We have answers." The woman hesitated. She didn't trust this creature, but she needed to know more. "Then tell me," she said. "What's going on? Who are you? And why are you here?" The alien was silent for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. Then they spoke, their voice calm but filled with gravity. "We are the observers," they said. "We come from a distant world, far beyond your understanding. For centuries, we have watched your planet, studying your species. We believed humans to be weak, primitive. But you have proven us wrong." The woman frowned. "What do you mean?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting their thoughts. "You possess a power that we do not understand," they said. "A power that defies the laws of nature. It is rare, even among our kind. And it is dangerous." The woman's heart skipped a beat. Dangerous? To who? The alien's expression darkened. "To everyone," they said. "There are those among us who fear what they cannot control. They see your power as a threat, and they will stop at nothing to eliminate it." The woman felt a chill run down her spine. "Eliminate it? You mean, kill me?" The alien nodded slowly. "Yes. And others like you." The woman's mind raced. Others like her? How many were there? And where were they? She wanted to ask, but the alien continued before she could speak. "We are not your enemies," they said. "We believe in understanding, not destruction. But we are few, and our voices are not always heard. The ones who fear you are powerful, and they are coming." The woman's hands glowed brighter, the energy pulsing through her like a warning. "When?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The alien's eyes flickered, as if calculating. "Soon," they said. "They are already on their way. And when they arrive, they will not stop until they have eradicated every trace of your power." The woman felt a surge of panic. "What can I do? How can I stop them?" The alien was silent for a moment, their glowing eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place. "You must learn to control your power," they said. "To understand it. Only then will you have a chance." The woman shook her head, frustrated. "I don't even know where to start. I don't know what this is or why I have it." The alien took a step closer, their voice softening. "We can help you," they said. "But you must trust us." The woman hesitated. Trust an alien? It sounded crazy. But what choice did she have? She couldn't do this alone. "Okay," she said finally. "What do I need to do?" The alien's eyes glowed brighter, as if pleased by her decision. "First, you must understand the nature of your power," they said. "It is not just a tool. It is a part of you. You must learn to embrace it, to let it flow through you without fear." The woman frowned. "That's easier said than done." The alien nodded. "It will not be easy. But it is necessary. If you do not learn to control your power, it will control you. And that is when the danger will come." The woman took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Okay," she said. "What's next?" The alien stepped back, their glowing eyes fixed on her. "We will guide you," they said. "But you must be prepared. The journey will not be easy, and the stakes are high. Are you ready?" The woman hesitated. Was she ready? She didn't know. But she knew one thing, she couldn't keep running. She had to face whatever was coming, no matter how scared she was. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm. The alien nodded, their expression unreadable. "Then let us begin." Over the next few days, the alien worked with the woman, teaching her to control her power. It wasn't easy. At first, she struggled to even summon the energy, let alone control it. But slowly, she began to improve. The alien taught her to focus, to channel the energy through her body like a current. They showed her how to create shields, to deflect objects, to even heal small wounds. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. For the first time, she felt like she had some control over her life. But as her power grew, so did her fear. The alien's warnings echoed in her mind. A storm is coming. She didn't know what that meant, but she knew it wasn't good. Meanwhile, the observer watched her progress with a mix of pride and concern. They had broken protocol by helping her, by revealing too much. The overseer would not be pleased. But the observer couldn't help it. There was something about this woman, something that made them question everything they had been taught. As they watched her through the window of her apartment, they wondered if they had made a mistake. Had they put her in more danger by training her? Or had they given her the tools she needed to survive? The observer didn't know. But one thing was certain, the storm was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would be the same. The woman stood in the middle of an empty field, her hands glowing faintly as she practiced her powers. The alien observer had brought her here, away from the city, to train without distractions. She had been working for days, learning to control the energy that flowed through her. It was exhausting, but she was getting better. She could feel it. The alien stood nearby, watching her closely. "Focus," they said, their voice calm but firm. "The energy is a part of you. You must learn to control it, not fight it." The woman nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. She raised her hands, and a shimmering shield formed in front of her. It was faint, barely visible, but it was there. She smiled, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. But before she could celebrate, the alien's expression changed. Their glowing eyes narrowed, and they turned their head sharply, as if hearing something she couldn't. "What is it?" the woman asked, her smile fading. The alien didn't answer right away. They stared into the distance, their body tense. Then, slowly, they said, "They're here." The woman's heart skipped a beat. "Who's here?" The alien turned to her, their glowing eyes filled with urgency. "The ones who fear you," they said. "The ones who want to destroy you." Before the woman could respond, a loud hum filled the air. It was different from the sound the observer made, deeper, more menacing. She looked up and saw a dark shape descending from the sky. It was a ship, sleek and angular, with a glowing red light at its center. The woman's hands began to glow brighter, her fear turning into energy. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. The alien stepped in front of her, their silver skin shimmering with a faint blue light. "Stay behind me," they said. "Do not engage unless you have to." The ship landed a short distance away, its red light pulsing like a heartbeat. The door opened, and a group of aliens stepped out. They were taller than the observer, with dark, metallic skin and glowing red eyes. They moved with a cold, mechanical precision, their expressions unreadable. The leader stepped forward, their voice deep and cold. "You have something that belongs to us," they said, their glowing red eyes fixed on the woman. The woman felt a chill run down her spine. She wanted to run, to hide, but she knew she couldn't. She had to face them, no matter how scared she was. The observer stepped forward, their voice calm but firm. "She is not yours to take," they said. "She is under our protection." The leader's eyes glowed brighter, their expression darkening. "You have no authority here," they said. "Step aside, or you will be destroyed." The observer didn't move. "I will not," they said. "You are making a mistake. She is not a threat. She is something more." The leader's expression didn't change. "We do not make mistakes," they said. "And we do not tolerate defiance." With that, they raised their hand, and a beam of red light shot toward the observer. The woman gasped, but the observer was ready. They raised their own hand, and a blue shield formed, deflecting the beam. The woman's heart raced as she watched the two aliens face off. She didn't know what to do, but she knew she couldn't just stand there. She had to help. She raised her hands, and a shimmering shield formed around her. It was faint, but it was there. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her hands glowing brighter. The leader noticed her and turned their glowing red eyes toward her. "You dare challenge us?" they asked, their voice filled with contempt. The woman didn't answer. She focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She didn't know if she could win, but she had to try. The leader raised their hand again, and another beam of red light shot toward her. She raised her shield, but the impact was stronger than she expected. She stumbled back, her shield flickering. The observer stepped in front of her, their blue shield deflecting another beam. "You must focus," they said, their voice urgent. "Do not let fear control you." The woman nodded, her hands glowing brighter. She took a deep breath and focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She raised her hands, and a beam of light shot toward the leader. The leader deflected it easily, but the woman didn't stop. She kept firing, her energy growing stronger with each shot. The leader was forced to step back, their glowing red eyes narrowing. The other aliens joined the fight, their red beams clashing with the observer's blue shield. The woman fought alongside them, her energy growing stronger with each moment. She didn't know how long they could hold out, but she knew they had to try. As the battle raged on, the woman began to feel a change. Her energy was no longer just a tool, it was a part of her. She could feel it flowing through her, connecting her to everything around her. She raised her hands, and a massive shield formed, covering her and the observer. The leader's eyes glowed brighter, their expression darkening. "You cannot win," they said, their voice filled with anger. The woman didn't respond. She focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She raised her hands, and a beam of light shot toward the leader, stronger than before. The leader deflected it, but the impact forced them back. They stumbled, their glowing red eyes flickering. For the first time, they looked uncertain. The woman didn't stop. She kept firing, her energy growing stronger with each shot. The leader was forced to retreat, their glowing red eyes filled with rage. The other aliens followed, their red beams fading as they retreated to their ship. The woman watched as the ship rose into the sky, its red light pulsing like a warning. The woman lowered her hands, her energy fading. She felt exhausted, but also exhilarated. She had done it. She had faced them and survived. The observer stepped forward, their glowing eyes filled with pride. "You did well," they said. "But this is only the beginning." The woman nodded, her breath shaky. "I know," she said. "But I'm ready." The observer's expression softened. "We will face it together," they said. "Whatever comes." The woman smiled, a sense of determination washing over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she was no longer afraid. The woman sat on the grass, her hands resting on her knees, her breath slowly returning to normal. The field was quiet now, the hum of the alien ship fading into the distance. She could still feel the energy pulsing through her, a reminder of the battle she had just fought, and survived. The observer stood nearby, their glowing eyes scanning the horizon. "They will return," they said, their voice calm but firm. "And next time, they will be prepared." The woman nodded, her mind racing. She had faced them once and held her ground, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. The aliens were powerful, and they wouldn't stop until they had eliminated her. She had to get stronger, to learn more about her powers. But how? She looked up at the observer, her expression determined. "What do I need to do?" she asked. "How can I be ready for them?" The observer turned to her, their glowing eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place. "You must understand the source of your power," they said. "It is not just energy. It is a connection, to the world, to the universe, to everything around you." The woman frowned. "A connection? What do you mean?" The observer stepped closer, their silver skin shimmering in the sunlight. "Your power is not just within you," they said. It is a part of everything. You must learn to feel it, to draw from it. Only then will you be able to face what is coming. The woman took a deep breath, trying to process their words. It sounded overwhelming, but she knew she had no choice. She had to try. Over the next few days, the observer took her to different places, forests, mountains, even the edge of the ocean. They taught her to feel the energy around her, to connect with it. At first, it was difficult. She couldn't feel anything but her own fear and doubt. But slowly, she began to notice small things, the hum of the wind, the pulse of the waves, the warmth of the sun. Focus, the observer said, their voice calm but firm. Let the energy flow through you. Do not fight it. Become it. The woman closed her eyes, her hands glowing faintly. She focused on the sounds around her, the feel of the earth beneath her feet. She let the energy flow through her, connecting her to everything. It was strange, but also peaceful. As she practiced, she began to feel a change. Her powers grew stronger, more controlled. She could create shields, deflect objects, even heal small wounds. But more importantly, she felt a sense of calm, a connection to the world that she had never felt before. Meanwhile, the observer watched her progress with a mix of pride and concern. They had broken protocol by helping her, by revealing too much. The overseer would not be pleased. But the observer couldn't help it. There was something about this woman, something that made them question everything they had been taught. As they watched her through the trees, they wondered if they had made a mistake. Had they put her in more danger by training her? Or had they given her the tools she needed to survive? The observer didn't know. But one thing was certain, the storm was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would be the same. That night, the woman sat by a campfire, staring into the flames. She felt different, stronger, more confident. But she also felt the weight of what was coming. The aliens would return, and she would have to face them again. She didn't know if she was ready, but she knew she had to try. The observer sat across from her, their glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. You have come far, they said. But there is still much to learn. The woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. I know, she said. But I feel different. Like I'm starting to understand. The observer tilted their head, their expression unreadable. Understanding is only the beginning, they said. The true test is yet to come. The woman looked at them, her eyes filled with determination. I'm ready, she said. Whatever it is, I'll face it. The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her resolve. We will face it together, they said. Whatever comes. Far above Earth, the alien ship hovered in silence. The leader stood on the bridge, their glowing red eyes fixed on the planet below. They had underestimated the woman once, but they would not make the same mistake again. Prepare the fleet, they said, their voice cold and commanding. We will return to Earth, and this time, we will not fail. The other aliens nodded, their glowing red eyes filled with determination. They had been defeated once, but they would not be defeated again. The woman was a threat, and they would eliminate her, no matter the cost. The woman stood on a hill overlooking the city, her hands glowing faintly as she practiced her powers. The observer stood beside her, their glowing eyes scanning the horizon. The air was thick with tension, a silent reminder of what was coming. They will be here soon, the observer said, their voice calm but firm. Are you ready? The woman nodded, her expression determined. I'm ready, she said. Whatever happens, I'll face it. The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her resolve. Remember, they said. Your power is not just within you. It is a part of everything. Draw from it, and you will not fail. The woman took a deep breath, letting the energy flow through her. She could feel it, the hum of the wind, the pulse of the earth, the warmth of the sun. It was all connected, and so was she. The arrival. As if on cue, a loud hum filled the air. The woman looked up and saw dark shapes descending from the sky. It was the alien fleet, sleek, angular ships with glowing red lights. They moved with a cold, mechanical precision, their presence casting a shadow over the city. The woman's heart raced, but she didn't let her fear take over. She focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She was ready. The ships landed in a nearby field, their red lights pulsing like a warning. The doors opened, and the aliens stepped out, tall, metallic beings with glowing red eyes. They moved with a cold, mechanical precision, their expressions unreadable. The leader stepped forward, their voice deep and cold. "You cannot win," they said, their glowing red eyes fixed on the woman. "Surrender, and we will make it quick." The woman didn't respond. She raised her hands, and a shimmering shield formed around her. The observer stepped forward, their blue shield deflecting a beam of red light. "We will not surrender," the observer said, their voice firm. "And we will not let you harm her." The leader's eyes glowed brighter, their expression darkening. "Then you will be destroyed," they said. With that, the battle began. The battle. The aliens fired their red beams, their movements cold and precise. The woman and the observer fought back, their shields deflecting the attacks. The woman focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She raised her hands, and a beam of light shot toward the aliens, forcing them back. But the aliens were relentless. They kept firing, their red beams clashing with the woman's shield. She stumbled back, her shield flickering. The observer stepped in front of her, their blue shield deflecting another beam. "Focus," they said, their voice urgent. "Do not let fear control you." The woman nodded, her hands glowing brighter. She took a deep breath and focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She raised her hands, and a massive shield formed, covering her and the observer. The leader's eyes glowed brighter, their expression darkening. "You cannot win," they said, their voice filled with anger. The woman didn't respond. She focused on her energy, letting it flow through her. She raised her hands, and a beam of light shot toward the leader, stronger than before. The leader deflected it, but the impact forced them back. They stumbled, their glowing red eyes flickering. For the first time, they looked uncertain. The woman didn't stop. She kept firing, her energy growing stronger with each shot. The leader was forced to retreat, their glowing red eyes filled with rage. The other aliens followed, their red beams fading as they retreated to their ships. The woman watched as the ships rose into the sky, their red lights pulsing like a warning. Aftermath. The woman lowered her hands, her energy fading. She felt exhausted, but also exhilarated. She had done it. She had faced them and survived. The observer stepped forward, their glowing eyes filled with pride. "You did well," they said. "But this is only the beginning." The woman nodded, her breath shaky. "I know," she said. "But I'm ready." The observer's expression softened. "We will face it together," they said. "Whatever comes." The woman smiled, a sense of determination washing over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she was no longer afraid. The observer's reflection. As they watched the alien ships disappear into the sky, the observer felt a flicker of doubt. They had broken protocol by helping the woman, by revealing too much. The overseer would not be pleased. But the observer couldn't help it. There was something about this woman, something that made them question everything they had been taught. As they stood there, watching her through the trees, they wondered if they had made a mistake. Had they put her in more danger by training her? Or had they given her the tools she needed to survive? The observer didn't know. But one thing was certain: the storm was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would be the same. The woman stood on the hill, her hands glowing faintly as she watched the alien ships disappear into the sky. The battle was over, but the fight was far from finished. She knew the aliens would return, and she had to be ready. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of peace. The observer stood beside her, their glowing eyes scanning the horizon. "You have done well," they said, their voice calm but firm. "But this is not the end." The woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know," she said. "But I feel different. Like I'm ready for whatever comes next." The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her resolve. "You have grown," they said. "Not just in power, but in spirit. That is what will guide you." The woman smiled, a sense of calm washing over her. She had faced her fears, embraced her powers, and stood her ground. She was no longer the person she had been, and that was a good thing. Far above Earth, the alien fleet hovered in silence. The leader stood on the bridge, their glowing red eyes fixed on the planet below. They had underestimated the woman once, but they would not make the same mistake again. "Prepare the fleet," they said, their voice cold and commanding. "We will return to Earth, and this time, we will not fail." The other aliens nodded, their glowing red eyes filled with determination. They had been defeated once, but they would not be defeated again. The woman was a threat, and they would eliminate her, no matter the cost. As the woman sat by the campfire that night, she thought about everything that had happened. She had discovered her powers, faced her fears, and fought against impossible odds. She had lost count of how many times she had wanted to give up, but she hadn't. She had kept going, kept fighting, and now she was stronger than ever. The observer sat across from her, their glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. "You have come far," they said. "But there is still much to learn." The woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know," she said. "But I feel different. Like I'm starting to understand." The observer tilted their head, their expression unreadable. "Understanding is only the beginning," they said. "The true test is yet to come." The woman looked at them, her eyes filled with determination. "I'm ready," she said. "Whatever it is, I'll face it." The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her resolve. "We will face it together," they said. "Whatever comes." As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled above, the woman felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She had faced her fears, embraced her powers, and stood her ground. She had proven to herself, and to the aliens, that she was not to be underestimated. But more than that, she had learned something important. True strength wasn't just about power or control. It was about courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what was right. It was about embracing who you were, no matter how different or strange, and using that to make a difference. She looked at the observer, her expression thoughtful. "Thank you," she said. "For everything." The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her gratitude. "You are welcome," they said. "But remember, this is not the end. It is only the beginning." The woman nodded, a sense of determination washing over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she was ready. The observer's dilemma. As they watched the woman through the trees, the observer felt a flicker of doubt. They had broken protocol by helping her, by revealing too much. The overseer would not be pleased. But the observer couldn't help it. There was something about this woman, something that made them question everything they had been taught. As they stood there, watching her through the trees, they wondered if they had made a mistake. Had they put her in more danger by training her? Or had they given her the tools she needed to survive? The observer didn't know. But one thing was certain: the storm was coming. And when it arrived, nothing would be the same. The final message. As the woman sat by the fire, she thought about everything she had learned. She had faced her fears, embraced her powers, and stood her ground. She had proven to herself, and to the aliens, that she was not to be underestimated. But more than that, she had learned something important. True strength wasn't just about power or control. It was about courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what was right. It was about embracing who you were, no matter how different or strange, and using that to make a difference. She looked at the observer, her expression thoughtful. "Thank you," she said. "For everything." The observer's eyes glowed brighter, as if reflecting her gratitude. "You are welcome," they said. "But remember, this is not the end. It is only the beginning." The woman nodded, a sense of determination washing over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she was ready.